everybody, my name is Brandon. Welcome back to Cinefessions, where we talk all things media, and welcome to episode 8 of Shelf Space, the series where I ask the question, is this physical media in my collection worth the shelf space that it's taking up? Today we have 3 more titles on the docket, actually a DVD, a Blu-ray, and a 4K title. 2 of these are Disney. Yes, I think I said last time that this was going to be a full Disney-themed episode, but that's just not how things worked out. I have 1 more in here I have to talk about, and we'll talk about why I have to talk about it as we get to it. So let's not waste any more time at all. Let's dive right into episode 8 of Shelf Space. All right, let's get started here with the DVD I'm going to talk about today. This is The Sword in the Stone, and I believe I haven't even shown this off yet in a pickups video, but I grabbed this one off of eBay because this is, by many accounts, the best way to watch this movie in its original aspect ratio. According to everything I read, the Blu-ray is just one of the worst Blu-ray upgrades you can get, and it's not in the correct aspect ratio, nor is it in the correct aspect ratio when you stream it on Disney+. Now, I'll admit, I checked out the Disney Plus stream after this. It doesn't make that much of a difference, to be completely honest with you. If you haven't seen this one, just stream it first if you have Disney Plus. There's no reason to run out and buy the DVD. Now, mind you, this is cheap, so I didn't spend a lot of money on this, but I decided for whatever reason that I needed to watch this in the correct aspect ratio the first time I see it. So that's what I ended up doing here. And honestly, it just wasn't worth it. Not only is the change in the aspect ratio not really make that much of a difference in this movie, the movie itself I just didn't really enjoy. So The Sword in the Stone is, well, by the title, I was expecting like a sword and sorcery movie maybe, where the entire plot is revolved around somebody trying to get this sword out of the stone. But that's not really what's at play here. We have Merlin, our amnesiac wizard, who ends up stumbling across Arthur, or Wart, I believe is what they call him in this. And he decides that he's going to educate him and do something more for him than just being a, I forget what they call it, like a squire or something along those lines. He wants more for him. Well, of course, things aren't going to play out that way. Well, they do for the majority of the movie, and then the last 5 minutes happen, which, yeah, okay. So this is just a weird one. Basically, we have these 3 major segments within this movie where it is people transforming, our main characters transforming into different animals, and then there's always a bigger shark in the pond, right? And so another animal, a bigger animal, is chasing after them now in order to try to catch them. Or in one instance, it's a squirrel who is extremely horny and trying to catch Wart or Arthur as he is a squirrel. And then the last one is basically a good versus evil wizard. So that's what we're dealing with here. It is a very slow moving movie for only, I think it's like 70 minutes long, if I'm not mistaken. It's very short, but 79 minutes. So it's very short, but it felt like a long one. I actually honestly had to rewind it multiple times because I kept dozing off. It did not catch my interest basically throughout the entire runtime here. Now that said, I think this DVD looks great. I watched it actually on my big, 120-inch screen, and I still think it looked really well done. So no issues with the DVD itself, which is from 2008, but it's who cares if it looks good if it's not going to be worth watching. And for my money, I just didn't find a lot of value in watching this film. I found it very slow paced. The characters were interesting enough, I guess, but not that engaging as the story progressed. Why Merlin has decided to take on Arthur is a little bit, I feel like it's not explained all that well either. And so it just leaves some unanswered questions. And then what I really wanted was this, somebody trying to get this sword out of the stone. That's all wrapped up in the final 5 minutes of the movie. And then it just ends. It's like, why doesn't the sword pull happen in the beginning of the movie, and then the rest of the film is about Arthur kind of coming to terms with this? But instead, that's just not the movie that they're making here. It is really just about kind of the relationship between Merlin and Arthur. And then eventually the sword and the stone thing happens, which I guess it's spoilery territory, but everybody knows what's going to happen here. I feel like that's just kind of a fable that everyone is familiar with. So yeah, I don't know. This one, I was really disappointed with this. I just expected a whole different movie than I got. And then what we do get, I just didn't find very entertaining or interesting as the film progressed. I just kept checking out. So For my money, this one just wasn't worth the, going the extra mile to get it in the proper aspect ratio on DVD versus just streaming it on Disney Plus. So if you haven't seen this, I highly recommend streaming it first, but chances are you've already seen it and you either love it or hate it, because this is a movie that a lot of you probably watched when you were young kids, and so it just has a nostalgia factor there. But because I didn't watch it when I was younger, that's completely missing for me. So for my money, this one is just not that recommendable. So I am going to give The Sword in the Stone from 1963 2 out of 5 stars. And then the ultimate question, is this DVD worth the shelf space? Honestly, it's not. I kind of regret picking this one up off of eBay. So because I just bought it, I might hold on to it for a little bit and then end up purging it, but I'm not real sure. Actually, I went through some of the special features on here as well. There were a couple of like Mickey Mouse shorts on here, and they were forgettable, I guess is the nicest term to say for them. So I don't know. I don't recommend running out and buying this one if you're not already a big fan of this. So can't give Sword in the Stone a recommendation, and I frankly don't really feel like it's worth the shelf space. Let's step up the chain here and move from DVD to Blu-ray and discuss the 2017 release of Beauty and the Beast, directed by Bill Condon. So this was one that I had virtually no expectations for coming into, but my wife started streaming it on Disney Plus, and I said, nope, stop. I have this Blu-ray downstairs. Let me go pop that in. And so that's how we ended up watching this one. And I loved it. Now, I know that might not be a very popular opinion with this one, but I am someone who has actually enjoyed some of these live action or just remakes. They're not all live action, but these remakes more than the original. I really liked The Lion King. I thought that remake was done so well. I do like the original more, but I really like the remake. But Aladdin, I actually like the remake better than I like the original film, which I know is going to make a lot of people angry, and I totally respect that. But for my money, I just enjoyed it more. Now, that said, when I did go back and watch the animated Aladdin after watching the live action, I actually appreciated it a lot more than when I first saw it. So Beauty and the Beast is another one. I think I like the remake better than the original. Emma Watson is just perfect as Belle. I think she is wonderful in this role. She just looks the part and feels the part, and she does such a great job with it. The music in this is excellent. I don't remember if there were any added songs in this, because it has been so long since I've seen the animated version, but I don't remember if there's any added songs here like there was in Aladdin, which the added song in Aladdin was one of my favorite songs in that whole movie. But either way, they do a great job with all of the music in this. Even though we've been listening to the original for so long, it can be hard to appreciate it when they do something like this, but I loved it. I thought they did such a great job with it. And then kind of the number one on my list is just the visuals. What an absolutely stunning looking film. This was one that I watched and I was like, man, I wish I had the 4K because this looks so nice. But the characters, the visuals, the story obviously is great. I think the direction is just done so well with this movie overall. The Beast, I think it looks great as well. There are maybe some moments where it's very obviously CGI, but still, if you can look past that, I think there's a lot to love here. One of my favorite aspects of this was the character of Gaston, because frankly, he is just a sociopath in this film. They go so much further with him here than they do in the animated movie. And I loved Josh Gad playing his little assistant. And I loved just the overtones that were being hinted at there. I thought was really interesting. And again, just the sociopathic nature. At one point, he leaves Belle's father out to die in the middle of the forest. Like, that's fascinating. That's not how it happens in the animated version, at least from what I remember. And it goes so much further. He is just straight up insane, and I loved it. I thought that was such a unique twist on this version of the movie. So this is just a wonderful film. But so let me start with this. I will give Beauty and the Beast from 2017. I'm going to give this one 4 out of 5 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed this. But the big question, is this worth the shelf space? Absolutely not, because I already picked it up on 4K. As I was mentioning, as I was watching this, there were some scenes in here that I thought to myself, I must see this in 4K. And so I had to go out and pick this one up. I thought it was at Disc Replay because I swear they've had this there forever. I just never bought it because I didn't want to upgrade. But now when I go to find it, they didn't have it. So I did end up purchasing this one off of eBay for, I want to say it was like $10. Not a high price on this one at all. But I am so happy to have this in 4K. I was actually going to check it out again, but we just haven't gotten around to it. But I absolutely will be. The scenes in the ballroom where the lights come up, there's like a fireworks display going on. I cannot wait to see how that works in 4K. I don't remember if it has Dolby Vision or just HDR10. It looks like just HDR10, but either way, it's going to look amazing. I cannot wait to see how this one looks. So the Blu-ray doesn't need to stay in the collection, but the 4K absolutely will. And actually, I'll just take the slipcover off of this and put it on my 4K because that's the one that'll stay. Love this movie. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. At least give it a shot. If you've liked any of the remakes that Disney has done, this one is right toward the top of my list. I still think the Aladdin one is just a little bit better, but I love this movie. So Beauty and the Beast is absolutely worth the shelf space. All right, and let's wrap this up with the 4K title that I've watched recently. So another one that I haven't even showed off in a haul yet, but I did grab Wolfman on 4K, and I ended up picking up the Steelbook release of this, which I'll show it now because you won't be able to see it in any haul video. Because if you look here, there are some dents, and I'm just tired of it. Amazon is obnoxious with their shipping and dented it up. So yeah, this one's going to be returned, and I'll talk about that as we go. So this is an interesting one. This is done by the same director that did Invisible Man, Leigh Whannell, who I am a big fan of just from the Saw series. I love him. But Invisible Man is an excellent remake of a Universal classic monster movie. And so I was hoping for more of the same with Wolfman. With Wolfman, we are following our main family. The movie opens up in the past, like, what, 30 or so years prior, I guess. And we are introduced to the world of the Wolfman. I believe it takes place, I want to say like Oregon, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. But either way, wherever it takes place, we jump ahead, and now our little boy in the beginning is now a dad with a daughter. But you guys know I'm such a sucker for a father-daughter relationship, which is probably why I like this one a little bit more than some people did. But anyway, they find out that the grandfather or the dad is dead from the beginning of the movie, so they have to go to the house and clean out the estate. Well, of course, that's where the Wolfman character is going to come into play. And this one, I thought, was done quite well, but nowhere near the same level as Invisible Man. That one, to me, just blows this one out of the water. But there are very much Leigh Whannell touches throughout this movie, like there is with Invisible Man, and I appreciated that aspect of it. But in terms of the movie itself, I think what really works for it is the relationships. I cared about the main family in this. The mom is kind of a little bit separated from, not physically, but just emotionally separated from the dad and the daughter. They have a very strong relationship. The father is basically a stay-at-home dad at this point, so they're together all the time. They have a very close relationship, where the mom, she's out, I believe she's a journalist, and so she is really going hard at work, and she even says at one point that she doesn't know if she knows how to be around her daughter anymore because of how kind of close the dad is with her and how she's been a bit separated. So that is an interesting aspect to this that, of course, is going to play a role as the Wolfman character develops. The other thing I thought was interesting about this was just how quickly everything kicks off. I thought there would be, frankly, I thought the movie was going to go in a different direction than it does, which I'll talk about a little bit as we go here, but it picks up very quickly. You know, of course, after that opening scene, the family basically immediately goes out to this house, and an accident happens, and that's what kicks off the whole thing. And so it happens very fast, and everything goes down quick, but it's really, I've heard it compared to like a home invasion film, and I get that because our family is going to lock themselves in this home, the father's home, and try to keep out the Wolfman or the wolf character that is trying to get in. But something happens with the father character in this, as is, revealed on all the trailers and everything, so I wouldn't consider that a spoiler. And so that's, things are going to take a twist from there. But if you look at it as a home invasion film, I don't know that you'll be totally fulfilled because, I love home invasion, and I wasn't in terms of that aspect of it, but I do think there are definitely aspects of the home invasion thriller that you can find throughout this movie. Outside of that part, I do think that the creature effects were done pretty well here. I know not a lot of people liked that, the creature effects in this, but I thought they were effective for what they were trying to do. They were creepy, and it was detailed enough that really drove home the fact, you know, with these characters transforming into these wolfmen. I thought that was very interesting, and so I liked that aspect of it. And then the filming locations on this were beautiful, which really helps with the 4K itself. I think it really popped in those scenes of color, which are extremely limited. I'll talk more about that as I get into the disc itself. But one thing I really wanted this to do is go further with that father-daughter relationship and kind of the sacrifice that's there. It could be argued that that's really what this is about, is a father's sacrifice, but I feel like they don't go far enough with it to make that point land as well as they could have. I think there were some things that they could have done differently that really would have drove that point home and just made it a more effective film, and maybe more people would talk more highly of this one. But for me, I think it's done well, but it could have been so much more in terms of that relationship and really the kind of the driving force behind this, the meaning behind the film. That's where it lost me a little bit. But I do want to talk about this 4K disc itself just a touch, because man, this is an extremely dark film. Even in 4K with Dolby Vision color grading, there are scenes in here that I thought were frankly just too dark. It was hard to see some things. And I know a lot of people complained about that with Last Voyage of the Demeter. I didn't have that much of a problem with it there, but that might have been, I might have been more forgiving because I was watching it on a DVD as opposed to a 4K. I just have higher expectations, but I thought this was just so dark, and it was intentional, of course, by the director, but I don't know that I loved that aspect of it because it was just hard to see in some scenes. That said, the Dolby Atmos on this blew me away right at the beginning. There is a scene where I think it opens up with it's like ants attacking a hornet or something like that. And just the rumble of that was incredible. The LFE in the speakers was amazing. And then that happens again later on with one of our characters turning into a wolf. There is a spider that's tapping, like crawling up the wall, and the tapping is just driving him nuts. It's so loud for them. And that part sounded excellent with the Dolby Atmos. Outside of that, though, there's just not a whole lot done with it. It's very evident that they could have done a lot with this audio track on here, but for whatever reason, they only really showcase it in maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4, a handful of spots, I'll say. And so I thought that was just a little bit disappointing as well. But, you know, the picture when it's bright looks incredible. When it's dark, it's hard to see. And that's just the way it is. My TV is turned up as bright as it goes, and it still was just difficult to see sometimes. Just something to keep in mind that might not bother you, but it was something I noticed as I was watching through it. So, you know, ultimately, I enjoyed Wolfman. I think it is a well-made film. The story is interesting. The characters are really what drove it home for me. I think the acting is done so well. So I'm going to give this one I'm going to give this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. Just a standard good movie, nowhere near the same level as Invisible Man. And so the question, of course, is Wolfman worth the shelf space? Well, for me, I'm returning this one. As I already mentioned, this has, like I said, dents in it. And when I go to exchange it, which is what I initially tried to do, they wouldn't let me. I have to exchange it for something else. So I'm not able to exchange this for the same item, and now it's more expensive. I'm not spending more on this. The only reason I grabbed the Steelbook is because it dropped down to like $27.99, which is the same price as the standard 4K. But at this point, I'm going to return this one, get my money back, and then I'll pick this one up down the line on 4K when it drops down to $10 or something. I don't see myself revisiting this one anytime soon, but because it's Leigh Whannell and it's part of this, hopefully a continuing line here that he does all these remakes, I definitely want it in the collection. Just really disappointed with this Steelbook being bent. And it's not the end of the world. Some of you might think I'm stupid for doing that, but I mean, we spent nearly $30 on these. After taxes, it's $30, right? And I get a damaged product because they are too lazy to package it correctly. That's a problem, and I'm just not going to support that, for this release anyway. So I am returning this one. So this will not stay in the collection, but that's mostly the fault of Amazon and not the movie itself. If I'd picked this one up for a good price on standard 4K, it definitely would be in the collection still. So those are my thoughts on Wolfman. All right, so that is it for episode 8 of Shelf Space. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and I would love to hear from you down in the comments below. Have you watched any of these movies? And if so, what are your takes on them? I'm sure we don't agree on all 3 of these, and that is totally fine. If I hated something and you love it, that's awesome. I hope you love everything you watch. Unfortunately, for me, all of these weren't excellent like I was hoping they would be, but 2 out of the 3 are definitely worth staying in the collection. So that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video and making it all the way to the end here. That really does help me out. So before I let you go, I'll just encourage you all to consume some media today. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you all next time.